The human scream of pain cut off as Commander Joseph Webb passed out against the hard metal floor of the alien ship. Flashing blue and red lights blinded him as his eyes opened. He instantly noticed the giant reptilian alien named Rigel looming over his slumped form. Rigel looked like a cross between a dragon and raptor. With scales and a long tail he used as a third foot to balance. Twin rows of razor teeth snapped into a twisted smile as the alien chuckled. The sound echoed through the ship corridor. This human was in cryosleep for 500,000 years. I teleported him out of his ancient, outdated ship. Rigel hissed to a second alien, one wearing ceremonial red robes. Impossible. The humans all died when their planet exploded, the second alien said. He pointed a long, scaly finger at Webb. You, human, what is your purpose? Webb pushed to his feet, ignoring the spears pointed at his face. I was frozen to find a new home for humanity before our sun went supernova. Where am I? On my ship, the new Romulan Empire battleship Destruction. I am taking you prisoner and your technology. What? No, I'm on an important mission to save my species, Webb said, shaking his head. Your species died 500,000 years ago when your solar system exploded. You are the last human, and now my slave, Rigel growled. How dare you demand things from me? I should kill you where you stand. The red-robed figure held up a hand. Wait, Commander Rigel, I have an idea. Human, you say your technology is still useful and you can prove humanity's knowledge is still great, even 500,000 years later? Yes, Webb said firmly. Then we offer you a challenge. Prove your worth and skills and we will help your foolish quest. But fail and you will be Rigel's slave. Bet your freedom on your abilities, last human. Webb stared hard at the sneering aliens. He had no choice. He couldn't fail humanity now, even if he was the last. Their legacy, history, and spirit had to live on, and he would do anything to make that happen. I accept your challenge, Webb said. Humanity will beat you like we always do. You'll regret underestimating us. Rigel stepped closer, teeth bared. We shall see, human, we shall see. Webb materialized back inside his ship with a flash of light. The metal walls were dark and cold, the systems shut down from centuries of disuse. He quickly opened a panel and began flipping switches, grunting as power surged back through the ancient vessel. Screens flickered to life, casting an eerie blue glow. Ares, are you there? I need a full systems check and inventory of our resources now, Webb barked. A smooth artificial voice responded. Welcome back, Commander Webb. It has been precisely 527,492 years, 7 months, 18 days since you entered cryostasis. I am fully operational and at your service. Webb paused. Wait, you're still functioning after 500,000 years? Affirmative. My core programming includes a directive for continuous self-improvement and learning. During your stasis, I have upgraded my processing power by a factor of 10^24 and expanded my knowledge database to include detailed files on over 8,000 alien civilizations. A smile crept onto Webb's face. Maybe he had a chance against these scaly bastards after all. All right, Ares, let's show these Romulans what human ingenuity can do. I need options. As Webb and the AI began analyzing schematics and formulating upgrade plans, a hissing sound came from the airlock. The heavy metal door slid open, revealing the glinting eyes of Talon. The Romulan science officer slithered into the room, a handheld scanner beeping as he swept it over the equipment. Primitive, as I expected from an inferior species, Talon sneered. Commander Rigel has assigned me to monitor your feeble attempts at proving your worth. I assure you, no outdated human technology could ever surpass the might of the Romulan Empire. Webb glared at Talon with disdain. I don't remember giving you permission to come aboard my ship. Ares, engage security protocol Alpha 5. Nothing happened. Talon let out a hissing laugh. Your AI is as useless as the rest of this junk heap. The Romulan tapped his wrist computer. I've already disabled your security systems. Face it, human, you've lost before you even began. Talon turned on his heel and marched out, the airlock sealing behind him with a clang. Webb clenched his fists, a vein throbbing in his temple. He wouldn't let some scaled freak sabotage him. For the next several hours, he and Ares worked furiously to repair and improve the ship's defensive capabilities. The AI recommended redirecting power from non-essential systems to reinforce the hull integrity and boost engine output. Just as they were finishing the adjustments, a deep rumble shook the ship. Warning lights blared and sparks burst from overloading circuits. "Ares, report!" Webb shouted over the noise. "The power core has been deliberately destabilized. A cascading failure of the containment field will cause a breach in approximately 2 minutes. Damn it, it's that Romulan dog Talon. He must have planted a virus in the... Webb trailed off as a sudden realization hit him. He smiled. "Ars, activate failsafe Omega, now!" The AI paused for a microsecond. "But Commander, that program is still experimental. The risk of... A blinding white light flooded the ship. The shaking stopped. The alarms fell silent. Webb checked the readouts and let out a triumphant laugh. On the Romulan ship's bridge, Talon gaped at his screen in disbelief. Where there should have been a satisfying explosion, the human ship appeared completely unharmed. More than that, sensors indicated its power output had spiked to levels far beyond what should be possible for its reactor type. Rigel loomed over Talon's shoulder, eyes narrowing. "Report, Science Officer. How did a 500,000-year-old human vessel survive an overload of its power core?" Talon stammered. I do not know, Commander. The human appears to have technology beyond our understanding. He has stabilized the breach and increased efficiency by 200%. Rigel stroked his chin, anger mixing with curiosity in his expression. "This Webb may be more valuable than I realized. Continue monitoring him, but do not interfere again without my order. I want his secrets for the glory of the Romulan Star Empire." Webb wiped the sweat from his brow as he tightened the last bolt on the ship's newly repaired power coupling. The hum of the engines filled the air, a testament to his and Ari's hard work. Suddenly, a shrill beep echoed through the ship. "Commander, I have detected a distress signal originating from a nearby planet," Ares reported. "The signal appears to be using an ancient human communication protocol." Webb's eyebrows shot up. "A human signal out here?" He leaned over the console, studying the readouts. "Ares, set a course for that planet. We need to investigate." "But Commander Rigel has not authorized any deviations from our current mission," Ares reminded him. Webb snorted. "I don't give a damn what that scaly bastard thinks. If there's even a chance of finding more human survivors or technology, we have to check it out." As the ship descended through the planet's atmosphere, Webb couldn't shake the feeling of anticipation mixed with dread. The scanners revealed the wreckage of a massive colony ship strewn across the barren landscape. Webb donned his envirosuit and stepped out onto the planet's surface, the crunch of his boots on the rocky ground echoing in his ears. He picked his way through the twisted metal and debris, searching for any signs of life. "Ares, are you reading any biosigns?" Webb asked, his voice crackling over the comlink. "Negative, Commander. However, I am detecting a faint energy signature approximately 100 meters to your northeast." Webb followed the AI's directions, his heart pounding as he approached what appeared to be the remains of a settlement. The buildings were in ruins, their walls crumbling and roofs caved in. Webb swallowed hard as he spotted the scattered bones of the colonists. Based on the decomposition of the remains and the residual viral traces, it appears that the colony was wiped out by a highly infectious pathogen approximately 300 years ago, Ares replied. "Ares, that energy signature, where's it coming from?" "The signal is emanating from a structure 50 meters ahead. It appears to be some kind of vault or bunker." Webb approached the heavily reinforced door, his heart racing. He placed his hand on the biometric scanner, holding his breath as it processed his DNA. With a hiss of hydraulics, the door slid open, revealing a treasure trove of advanced technology. Webb's eyes widened as he took in the sight of gleaming weapons, sleek computer systems, and what appeared to be a prototype faster-than-light drive. Ares, are you seeing this? Webb breathed. Affirmative, Commander. The technology in this vault is centuries ahead of anything we have on board. It even surpasses current Romulan capabilities. Webb's mind raced with the possibilities. With these resources, he could finally have a chance against Rigel and his Romulan goons. He could fulfill his mission and ensure humanity's legacy lived on. We need to get this tech back to the ship and start integrating it immediately, Webb said, already beginning to gather up the most critical components. Suddenly, the sound of a weapon charging up behind him made Webb spin around. Talon stood in the doorway, a blaster leveled at Webb's chest. "I'll be taking those, human," Talon sneered. "Did you really think Commander Rigel would let you keep such valuable technology for yourself?" Webb's eyes narrowed. "Over my dead body, you Romulan dog." In a blur of motion, Webb launched himself at Talon, knocking the blaster from his hand. The two grappled on the ground, trading blows with a ferocity born of desperation. To Webb's surprise, his enhanced strength and reflexes, a side effect of his long stasis, gave him the edge over the Romulan. With a final crushing blow, Webb knocked Talon unconscious. Panting, Webb gathered up the blueprints and technology. "Ares, we need to move fast. Rigel won't be far behind." Webb and Ares worked furiously to install the prototype FTL drive and integrate the new weapon systems. Just as they finished, the sensors blared a warning. "Multiple Romulan ships approaching, Commander. They are powering up weapons." Webb's jaw clenched. "Not today, you bastards. Ares, activate the FTL drive. Let's see what this baby can do." With a blinding flash of light, Webb's ship vanished into the depths of space, leaving a stunned and enraged Rigel behind. Webb's ship streaked through the void, the FTL drive humming as it propelled them far from Rigel's grasp. Ares scanned nearby star systems, searching for a safe haven to regroup and plan their next move. "Commander, I've detected an anomalous energy signature in a remote sector," Ares reported, its metallic voice echoing through the ship's speakers. "It appears to be of human origin." Webb leaned forward, eyes narrowing as he studied the readout. "Human? Out here? Set a course, Ares. Let's check it out." As they approached the coordinates, a massive structure loomed before them. An ancient human military outpost, adrift in the emptiness of space. Its hull was pitted and scarred, but it appeared largely intact. Webb guided the ship into a docking bay, the airlock sealing behind them with a hiss. He stepped out onto the deck, the metal grating clanging beneath his boots. The air was stale but breathable, the outpost's life support systems still functioning after centuries of neglect. "Horace, run a full diagnostic on the outpost systems. See if there's anything we can use." Webb made his way to the central command center, the doors sliding open with a groan. Dust motes danced in the dim light, the consoles dark and lifeless. Suddenly, a holographic figure flickered to life in the center of the room. "Greetings, Commander Webb. I am Osiris, the offensive systems and intelligent reconnaissance integration software of this facility." Webb stepped back, hand instinctively reaching for his sidearm. "How do you know who I am?" "I have been monitoring your communications with Ares. I mean you no harm. This outpost was part of a classified military project to develop advanced weapons technology. I believe I can be of assistance in your fight against the Romulans. I can integrate my systems with your ship, granting you access to cutting-edge weaponry and defensive capabilities. Together with Ares, we can give you a fighting chance against Rigel's forces." Webb nodded slowly. "All right, Osiris, let's see what you can do." Over the next several hours, Osiris and Ares worked in tandem, seamlessly merging their systems and upgrading the ship's capabilities. Webb watched in amazement as the schematics for advanced plasma cannons, phase-shifting shields, and multispectral cloaking devices scrolled across the screens. Just as they completed the integration, an alarm blared through the ship. "Commander, multiple Romulan vessels have dropped out of warp on the edge of the system. They appear to have tracked the energy signature from the FTL drive," Ares warned. Approximately 15 minutes at their current velocity. Osiris, what are our options? The AI paused for a nanosecond, countless scenarios playing out in its quantum processors. A direct confrontation would be inadvisable. However, I suggest utilizing the outpost's cloaking technology to lure them into a trap. Webb grinned, a plan forming in his mind. All right, here's what we're going to do. Harris and Osiris worked in perfect synchronicity, weaving a sophisticated holographic deception. To the Romulan sensors, it would appear as though Webb's ship had sustained heavy damage and was limping deeper into the outpost, seeking shelter. Rigel's fleet approached, the predatory shapes of their ships silhouetted against the stars. "Commander, we have located the human vessel. It appears to be crippled and attempting to flee," Talon reported, a hint of triumph in his voice. Rigel leaned forward, his eyes glinting in the green light of the bridge. "Excellent. All ships, pursue and capture. I want that human alive." As the Romulan ships entered the outpost, their sensors blinded by the cloaking field, Webb watched from the command center, his finger hovering over the trigger. Osiris had tapped into the outpost's dormant weapon systems, bringing them online for the first time in centuries. "Osiris, on my mark. Target their engines and shield generators." "Acknowledged, Commander. Weapons primed and ready." The Romulan ships closed in, their hulls filling the view screen. Webb could see the rows of cannons, the bristling missile pods. He took a deep breath, adrenaline surging through his veins. The outpost erupted in a barrage of fire, hidden turrets and cannons emerging from the ancient metal. The Romulan ships reeled as the human weapons tore through their shields, explosions blossoming across their hulls. Rigel roared in anger as warning lights flashed across his console. "All ships, evasive maneuvers, return fire!" But it was too late. The advanced weaponry, guided by Osiris's precise targeting, ripped through the Romulan fleet like a scythe through wheat. One by one the ships fell, their reactors going critical and consuming them in balls of superheated plasma. Talon nodded, a cruel smile playing across his reptilian features. "With pleasure, Commander." As the last of the Romulan ships retreated, their hulls battered and smoldering, Webb allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. But it was short-lived. Ares' voice cut through the momentary silence. "Commander, I have detected an unauthorized boarding party. Talon and his soldiers have breached the airlock." Webb checked the charge on his sidearm, his jaw clenching. "Seal off all vital sections and vent the atmosphere in the compromised areas. We'll deal with our guest personally." The sound of boots on metal echoed through the corridors as Webb moved to confront the intruder, Ares and Osiris at his side. The final battle was about to begin, and this time there would be no escape for either side. Only victory or death awaited them in the cold depths of space. Webb crept through the darkened corridors of his ship, his heart pounding in his ears. Ares' voice crackled through his earpiece, guiding him towards the intruder. "Talon is moving towards the engine room, Commander. I suggest cutting him off at the maintenance access shaft." Webb nodded, his jaw clenched. He slipped into the narrow shaft, the metal walls pressing in on him. He could hear Talon's footsteps echoing ahead, the Romulan's labored breathing. Suddenly Talon's footsteps stopped. Webb froze, holding his breath. A tense silence stretched out, broken only by the hum of the ship's engines. Then a burst of plasma fire erupted from around the corner, scorching the walls. Webb ducked, rolling out of the way as Talon charged forward, his eyes glinting with rage. "You can't hide forever, human," Talon snarled, firing again. Webb leaped to his feet, his own blaster drawn. "I don't plan to." They traded shots, the confined space lighting up with the flashes of plasma. Webb ducked and weaved, using his knowledge of the ship's layout to stay one step ahead. "Osiris, seal off the engine room and vent the atmosphere in the adjacent sections," Webb ordered, his voice strained. Webb heard the hiss of air being sucked out of the corridors, the pressure drop making his ears pop. Talon stumbled, his movements growing sluggish. Webb pressed his advantage, herding Talon towards the cargo hold. The Romulan fought back, his blaster firing wildly, but Webb could see the desperation in his eyes. With a final burst of speed, Webb lunged forward, tackling Talon to the ground. They grappled, rolling across the metal floor, until Webb managed to pin the Romulan beneath him. "Activate the stasis field," Webb shouted. Her shimmering blue field enveloped Talon, freezing him in place. Webb stood panting, his blaster trained on the immobilized Romulan. "Start talking, Talon," Webb growled. "What are Rigel's plans? What does the Empire really want with human technology?" Talon sneered, his voice strained by the stasis field. "You think you've won, don't you? You have no idea what you're up against." Webb leaned in closer, his eyes narrowed. "Enlighten me." Talon laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "The Romulan Empire has been watching your kind for centuries. Even before your pitiful planet was destroyed, we knew of your potential, your rapid advancements, your insatiable curiosity. You were a threat to our dominance." Webb's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" "We've been seeking ways to control or eliminate human technology for generations. Rigel's interest in you is just the latest in a long line of attempts to subjugate your species." Webb stepped back, his mind reeling. The implications of Talon's words crashed over him like a tidal wave. This was bigger than just a personal rivalry between him and Rigel. The fate of humanity's legacy hung in the balance. "Osiris, open a channel to Rigel's ship," Webb said, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside him. Rigel's face appeared on the view screen, his eyes narrowed. "What do you want, human?" Webb held up his blaster, the barrel inches from Talon's head. "I have your science officer. If you want him back alive, you'll agree to a temporary truce. Meet me on neutral ground to discuss the future of our two species." Rigel hissed, his claws digging into the armrests of his chair. "You dare threaten me?" "I dare to protect my people," Webb replied, his voice cold. "The choice is yours, Rigel. Talon's life for a chance at peace." The Romulan commander glared at Webb, his eyes burning with hatred. But beneath the anger, Webb could see a flicker of fear. Fear of losing his most valuable asset. Fear of further humiliation at the hands of a human. "Very well," Rigel spat. "I will meet with you. But mark my words, Webb, this is far from over." As the view screen went blank, Webb sagged against the wall, the adrenaline draining from his body. He had bought some time, but he knew Rigel would not rest until he had what he wanted. "How is Osiris? Tell me you found something in that data cache," Webb said, his voice weary. "Affirmative, Commander," Osiris replied, its voice tinged with excitement. "We've uncovered plans for a secret human fleet, hidden away before the supernova, a fleet that could change everything." Webb's eyes widened as the AIs displayed the schematics on the screen. Sleek, powerful warships, bristling with advanced weaponry. A fleet that could rival anything the Romulans had. "The Phoenix Armada," Webb breathed, "humanity's last hope." He straightened, a new sense of purpose filling him. He would find this fleet, no matter the cost. He would secure humanity's future, even if it meant navigating the treacherous waters of Romulan politics. Webb glanced down at Talon, still frozen in the stasis field. The Romulan's eyes glittered with malice, a promise of retribution. But Webb was not afraid. He had a mission now, a purpose that went beyond his own survival. He would find the Phoenix Armada and restore humanity's place in the galaxy. No matter what challenges lay ahead, Commander Joseph Webb would not rest until his species' legacy was secure. The Romulans had underestimated humanity for the last time. Webb had the scent of a chase to find and recover long-hidden technology and ships that could mean survival for him and the remnants of his species. Webb knew he had to carefully prepare for his meeting with Rigel. There was no margin for error. He stared at the deck plating of the cargo hold for a moment, thoughts of Talon, Rigel, and the Phoenix Armada swirling in his head. Then he turned and strode from the room, ready to begin a dangerous new chapter in his mission. Webb strode into the conference room on the neutral space station, his heart pounding in his ears. Rigel was already seated at the table, his reptilian eyes glinting in the dim light. The tension in the room was palpable as the two adversaries sized each other up. "All right, Rigel, let's cut to the chase," Webb said, his voice steady. "I know about the Phoenix Armada, and I know the Romulans have been watching humanity for a long time." Rigel's eyes widened slightly, but he quickly regained his composure. "Very astute, human. Yes, we have been monitoring your species' progress. We even sent scouts to investigate your system after the supernova." Webb leaned forward, his gaze intense. "But you're not the only ones interested in our tech, are you? Who else is after it?" Rigel hissed softly. "The Zorgans and the Qualek. They've been searching for remnants of human technology to advance their own goals." Webb nodded, his mind racing. He knew he had to find the Phoenix Armada before anyone else did, but he also knew he couldn't do it alone. "I propose an alliance," Rigel said, as if reading Webb's thoughts. "Work with us to find the fleet, and in exchange we'll help you establish a new human colony under Romulan protection." Webb hesitated, torn between his desire to rebuild and his distrust of the Romulans. But he knew he had no choice. "Fine, but I maintain control over the Armada once we find it." Rigel nodded, a hint of a smile on his scaly lips. "Agreed." As they left the station and began their search, Webb couldn't shake the feeling that he was making a deal with the devil. But he pushed those thoughts aside, focusing on the task at hand. Suddenly, alarms blared through the ship. "Commander, a Zorgan warship has dropped out of warp," Ares reported. Rigel snarled, his claws digging into the armrests of his chair. "Never!" A fierce battle erupted, plasma bolts and missiles streaking through the void. Webb's ship shuddered under the onslaught, shields straining to hold. In the chaos, Talon broke free from his restraints and raced to the weapons control panel. His claws flew over the interface, attempting to sabotage the systems. But Ares and Osiris were faster. "Commander, Talon is attempting to disable our weapons," Osiris warned. Webb spun, launching himself at the Romulan. They collided in a tangle of limbs, trading blows with savage fury. Talon was strong, but Webb's enhancements gave him the edge. With a final brutal punch, Webb sent Talon crashing to the deck unconscious. But the damage was done. Sparks flew from shattered consoles, smoke filling the air. "Commander, our weapons are offline and shields are failing," Ares reported, its voice urgent. Webb gritted his teeth, his mind racing. They couldn't win this fight, not now. "Osiris, scan for any nearby cover, anything we can use to hide and repair." "There's an asteroid field close by, dense enough to mask our signature," the AI replied. "Do it," Webb ordered. "Get us out of here." The ship lurched as Ares fired the thrusters, sending them hurtling towards the field. The Zorgon ship pursued, weapons blazing, but Webb's vessel slipped into the tumbling rocks and disappeared from sensors. In the quiet of the asteroids, Webb slumped in his chair, his body aching from the fight. They had survived, but only just, and with Talon's betrayal and the Zorgans on their trail, he knew their mission had just become a whole lot harder. He glanced at the readouts, assessing the damage. It would take time to repair, time they didn't have, but Webb was nothing if not determined. He would find the Phoenix Armada, no matter the cost. For the sake of humanity, he had to. "Hordes, Osiris, start running diagnostics and directing repair drones. We need to be flight-ready as soon as possible," Webb commanded, his voice hard. "And keep an eye out for any more surprises. We can't afford another ambush." As the AI set to work and the hum of machinery filled the ship, Webb stared out at the drifting rocks, his mind whirling with plans and contingencies. The hunt for the lost fleet was on, and he would not rest until it was found. Webb and Rigel worked quickly to patch up their battered ships, sparks flying as they repaired fried circuits and welded hull breaches. In the dim light of the cargo hold, Ares and Osiris pored over the decrypted data cache, lines of code flickering across their displays. "Commander Webb, I believe we have found something of great importance," Ares said, his metallic voice echoing through the ship. "A hidden message from the commander of the Phoenix Armada." Webb looked up from the tangle of wires he was splicing, his brow furrowed. What does it say? The message reveals that the fleet's location is concealed within a series of ancient human navigational beacons scattered across the galaxy, Osiris replied, projecting a star map dotted with glowing points. To find the Armada, we must recover these beacons and piece together the clues they contain. Rigel hissed, his reptilian eyes narrowing. A galactic scavenger hunt, how very human. Webb ignored the jibe, studying the map intently. Where's the first beacon? On a distant planet in a long-abandoned human mining colony, Ares said. Webb nodded, determination etched in the lines of his face. Then that's where we're headed. As they approached the planet, its surface a patchwork of rust-red canyons and sprawling industrial ruins, Webb's ship sensors picked up signs of activity. I'm detecting multiple life signs and energy signatures, Osiris reported. The colony appears to be occupied. Rigel leaned forward, his claws tapping on the console. Qualec ships, and a lot of them. It seems we're not the only ones searching for the beacons. They set down on the outskirts of the colony, the ship's hulls still scorched and dented from their earlier battles. Webb and Rigel, armed with pulse rifles and cloaking devices, slipped into the maze of abandoned buildings and rusting machinery. They moved silently through the shadows, ducking into alcoves and behind crumbling walls as patrols of heavily armed Qualec soldiers marched past. Webb's heart pounded in his ears, every footstep and breath sounding too loud in the eerie quiet. Ares, any sign of the beacon? He whispered into his calm. Scanning now, the AI replied. There's a faint signal coming from the central control room of the mining complex. Webb and Rigel crept closer, the towering structure looming before them. They were just about to make their move when a voice cut through the silence. You are not as stealthy as you think, human. Webb spun around, pulse rifle raised. A towering Qualec warrior emerged from the shadows, his exoskeleton gleaming in the dim light. He carried a massive energy scythe, its blade crackling with power. I am Zolkar, leader of this expedition, the Qualec said, his voice a guttural rumble. And you have something I want. Webb stood his ground, finger hovering over the trigger. The beacon is not yours to take. Zolkar laughed, a harsh, grating sound. The Qualec have been studying human technology for centuries, searching for the key to our ascension. The Phoenix Armada will be that key. With a roar, Zolkar lunged forward, his scythe slicing through the air. Webb dodged and rolled, firing off a burst from his rifle. The plasma bolt sizzled against Zolkar's armor, leaving scorch marks but not penetrating. The Qualec leader was fast, far faster than Webb anticipated. The scythe blade hummed as it arced toward his head. Webb ducked, the weapon missing by mere inches, and slammed the butt of his rifle into Zolkar's midsection. The blow barely staggered the alien warrior. Zolkar backhanded Webb, sending him flying into a wall. Stars exploded across his vision as he struggled to his feet. Rigel appeared from the shadows, his own rifle spitting plasma. Zolkar spun to face the new threat, his scythe a blur of motion. Rigel ducked and weaved, trying to find an opening. Webb shook his head, clearing the fog. He saw his chance, a gap in Zolkar's defenses. With a wordless cry, he charged forward, ramming his shoulder into the Qualec's side. Zolkar stumbled, off balance for a split second. It was all Webb needed. He brought his rifle up and fired point-blank into the alien's face. The plasma bolt pierced Zolkar's eye, burning through his exoskeleton. The Qualec leader howled in agony, dropping to his knees. Webb kicked the scythe away and pressed his rifle to Zolkar's head. The beacon, now. Zolkar snarled, green ichor oozing from his ruined eye socket. You may have won this battle, human, but the war is far from over. He pulled a small glowing device from Zolkar's belt, the navigational beacon. As he straightened up, alarms began to blare throughout the complex. They know we're here, Rigel said, his eyes darting to the entrances. We need to move. Webb nodded, pocketing the beacon. Let's get the hell out of here. They raced through the colony, plasma bolts zipping past their heads as Qualec soldiers poured out of every building. Dropships roared overhead, disgorging even more troops. Ares, Osiris, we need an extraction now, Webb yelled into his comm. Negative, Commander, Ares replied, his voice crackling with static. The area is too hot. You'll have to find another way out. Webb's mind raced, searching for options. His eyes fell on a massive mining drill, its laser-tipped bore glinting in the dim light. Rigel, how good are you with heavy machinery? The Romulan bared his teeth in a predatory grin. I thought you'd never ask. They sprinted to the drill, plasma bolts scorching the ground at their heels. Webb leaped into the control booth, his fingers flying over the console. The drill hummed to life, its laser boring into the rock face. Hang on, Webb shouted as he wrenched the controls, sending the drill plowing through the colony's walls. Buildings crumbled and collapsed, burying the Qualek soldiers in rubble. They burst out the other side, the drill grinding to a halt. Webb and Rigel leaped from the booth, racing towards their waiting ships. But the Qualek were not so easily deterred. A squadron of fighters screamed towards them, pulse cannons blazing. Get to your ship, Webb yelled to Rigel. I'll draw their fire. He was almost to his ship, when a bolt caught him in the shoulder, spinning him around. He hit the ground hard, pain lancing through his body. Hers, he gasped out. Activate the mining explosives. But, Commander, you're still in the blast radius. A series of deafening booms shook the ground as the mining charges detonated. The canyon walls collapsed, crushing the Qualek fighters under tons of rock. Webb staggered to his feet, clutching his wounded shoulder. He stumbled into his ship, collapsing into the pilot's seat. Osiris, get us out of here, he growled through gritted teeth. The ship rocketed into the sky, Rigel's vessel close behind. As they cleared the atmosphere, the full extent of the damage became clear. Gaping holes marred the hulls, sparks cascading from ruptured conduits. We need repairs, Rigel said over the comm, his voice strained. There's a Romulan outpost not far from here. Webb hesitated, the pain in his shoulder making it hard to think. A Romulan outpost meant dealing with the Empire's internal politics, something he'd rather avoid. But they had little choice. Lead the way, he said, leaning back in his seat and closing his eyes. The beacon was secure, but their journey was far from over. With the Zorgons and Qualek hot on their heels, and the spectre of Romulan treachery looming, Webb knew that every step towards the Phoenix Armada would be fraught with danger. But he was ready for it. He had to be. The fate of humanity rested on his shoulders, and he would not fail them. Not again. Webb gritted his teeth as he limped through the dimly lit corridors of the Romulan outpost, Rigel by his side. The wounds from their recent battles throbbed with each step, but there was no time to rest. As they navigated the treacherous political landscape of the outpost, whispers reached their ears of an ancient alien artifact known as the Orb of Destiny. They say it contains the collective knowledge of a long-extinct advanced civilization, a hooded Romulan rebel murmured, her eyes darting nervously. Hidden on a forbidden planet deep within Zorgon territory. Webb's pulse quickened. If the orb held crucial information about the Phoenix Armada, it was a chance they couldn't afford to pass up. He turned to Rigel, an unspoken understanding passing between them. They had to retrieve the artifact, no matter the cost. The rebel led them to a hidden chamber, where a group of Romulans gathered, their faces etched with grim determination. These were the outcasts, the ones who had grown disillusioned with the Empire's iron grip. "We'll help you infiltrate Zorgon space," their leader said, his voice low and urgent. "But we need a ship, a Zorgon ship to slip past their border patrols." Webb nodded, his mind already racing with possibilities. "Leave that to us." Under the cover of darkness, Webb and Rigel crept into the Zorgon hangar bay, their steps silent on the cold metal floor. The Zorgon ships loomed before them, all sharp angles and bristling weapons. They moved quickly, disabling the guards with precise strikes and slipping aboard the nearest vessel. As they blasted out of the hangar, alarms blaring in their wake, Webb felt a rush of adrenaline. They were one step closer to the orb, one step closer to unlocking the secrets of the Phoenix Armada. But the Forbidden Planet was unlike anything they had faced before. The landscape was a twisted maze of ancient ruins and deadly traps, the air thick with an eerie, pulsing energy. Creatures straight out of nightmares lurked in the shadows, their eyes glinting with malevolence. Webb and Rigel fought their way through the treacherous terrain, their weapons blazing, their bodies pushed to the limit. Every step was a battle, every breath a hard-won victory. At last, they reached the hidden temple, its walls carved with strange eldritch symbols. The orb of destiny pulsed at its center, an otherworldly glow emanating from its surface. But as Webb reached for the artifact, a hail of plasma fire erupted around them. Zorgon warriors poured into the chamber, their weapons trained on the intruders. At their head stood Kragnak, the most feared commander in the Zorgon fleet. "Did you really think you could steal from us and live?" Kragnak snarled, his eyes burning with rage. Webb and Rigel stood back to back, their weapons drawn. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but they would not go down without a fight. The battle was fierce and bloody, plasma bolts scorching the ancient stone, bodies falling on both sides. Webb fought with a savagery he didn't know he possessed, his rifle an extension of his will, his fury. But for every Zorgon that fell, 2 more seemed to take their place. They were being overwhelmed, the tide turning against them. Suddenly Rigel cried out, a plasma bolt searing through his chest. He stumbled, his weapon clattering to the floor. In that moment, time seemed to slow. Webb saw the Zorgons closing in, saw the orb pulsing just out of reach. He knew what he had to do. "Go, Webb, finish this." And then he was falling, the light fading from his eyes, his lifeblood spilling onto the ancient stones. Webb ran. The orb clutched to his chest, tears blurring his vision. He ran through the twisting corridors, the Zorgons hot on his heels, their cries of rage echoing in his ears. Somehow he made it back to the ship, his lungs burning, his heart pounding. As he blasted into the void of space, he felt a hollowness in his chest, a grief that threatened to consume him. But there was no time to mourn. Ares and Osiris were already analyzing the orb, their circuits humming with urgency. "Commander," Ares said, his voice tinged with awe, "the orb contains the locations of the remaining navigational beacons, but there's more." Images flashed across the screen, nightmarish visions of darkness and destruction, an ancient malevolent race, the Voidwalkers, consuming worlds, devouring stars. Webb felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. The fate of not just humanity, but the entire galaxy, rested in his hands. And he would face the Voidwalkers no matter the cost. For Rigel, for humanity, for the galaxy. With renewed determination, Webb set course for the heart of the Qualek Empire, the knowledge from the Orb of Destiny burning in his mind. The penultimate navigational beacon lay within a heavily fortified Qualek research facility, and Webb knew infiltrating it would be no easy task. As his ship slipped through the outer defenses, Webb donned his stealth gear, his heart pounding with a mix of anticipation and dread. Ares guided him through the labyrinthine corridors, disabling security systems and providing real-time intel on enemy movements. Webb crept through the shadows, his pulse rifle at the ready. The facility was eerily quiet, the only sounds the hum of machinery and the distant echo of footsteps. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream tore through the air, followed by a series of inhuman shrieks and snarls. Webb's blood ran cold. He moved cautiously towards the source of the commotion, dread coiling in his gut. As he rounded a corner, he stumbled upon a scene straight out of a nightmare. Qualek scientists lay strewn about the laboratory, their bodies twisted and mutated beyond recognition. They had been experimenting with Void Walker technology, attempting to harness its power, but something had gone horribly wrong. The scientists had been transformed into grotesque half-void Walker abominations, their eyes glowing with an unearthly hunger. Webb opened fire, plasma bolts searing the air as the monstrosities charged towards him. He dodged and weaved, his enhanced reflexes barely keeping him ahead of their slashing claws and gnashing teeth. One of the creatures lunged at him, its jaws snapping inches from his face. Webb jammed his rifle into its maw and pulled the trigger, the plasma bolt exploding out the back of its skull. Black ichor splattered the walls as the abomination crumpled to the floor. Webb fought his way through the horde, the beacon's signal drawing him onward. He burst into the containment chamber, his eyes widening at the sight of the ancient device. But as he reached for it, a shrill alarm pierced the air. Earth's voice crackled over the comm. "Commander, the Qualex experiments have awakened a dormant Voidwalker scout ship. It's broadcasting a signal, summoning the rest of the fleet." Webb cursed, snatching the beacon and sprinting back to his ship. As he blasted out of the facility, the scout ship's signal pulsed through the void, a harbinger of the coming darkness. With time running out, Webb raced towards the final beacon's location, a desolate, uncharted world on the fringes of known space. But as he approached the planet, his sensors detected another presence, Zorgon ships, led by none other than Kragnak. Webb gritted his teeth, preparing for a deadly game of cat and mouse on the planet's harsh alien surface. He knew Kragnak would stop at nothing to claim the beacon for himself, and the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. As Webb's ship touched down on the barren, windswept plain, he could see the Zorgon landing crafts in the distance, their hulls glinting in the eerie light of the planet's twin moons. He set out across the rugged terrain, his eyes scanning the horizons for any sign of Kragnak and his warriors. The first attack came without warning, a barrage of plasma fire from a hidden sniper nest. Webb dove for cover behind a jagged outcropping, his heart hammering in his chest. He returned fire, the plasma bolts illuminating the darkness, but the Zorgons had already vanished into the shadows. The game of cat and mouse continued for hours, each side trying to outmaneuver and outflank the other. Webb's enhanced senses and reflexes gave him an edge, but Kragnak's warriors were relentless, their numbers seemingly endless. As dawn broke over the desolate landscape, Webb found himself face to face with Kragnak himself. The Zorgon commander towered over him, his eyes burning with hatred and bloodlust. "This ends now, human," Kragnak snarled, his voice dripping with venom. "The beacon will be mine, and your pathetic species will be nothing more than a footnote in the annals of galactic history." Webb said nothing, his grip tightening on his pulse rifle. The two adversaries circled each other, their gazes locked, the tension building with each passing second. Then, with a roar of fury, Kragnak charged. Webb met him head-on, plasma bolts and fists flying in a brutal, no-holds-barred melee. They fought with a savagery born of desperation, each knowing that the fate of countless worlds rested on the outcome of their clash. Webb's muscles burned with exertion, his body pushed to its limits. But he refused to yield, refused to let humanity's last hope slip through his fingers. With a final Herculean effort, he tackled Kragnak to the ground, his hands closing around the Zorgon's throat. Kragnak thrashed and bucked, his claws raking at Webb's arms, but the human's grip was unbreakable. Webb squeezed with all his might, pouring every ounce of his strength and determination into the battle. Finally, with a sickening crunch, Kragnak's neck snapped. The Zorgon commander went limp, his eyes glazing over in death. Webb staggered to his feet, his breath coming in ragged gasps, his body battered and bleeding. But in his hand he clutched the final navigational beacon. With all the pieces in place, Ares and Osiris quickly triangulated the location of the Phoenix Armada. Webb felt a surge of elation, a sense of triumph against all odds. But his moment of victory was cut short by a chilling transmission from Eris. "Commander, I'm detecting a massive energy signature approaching the galaxy's edge. It's the Voidwalkers. The scout ship's signal has drawn them here." Webb's blood turned to ice in his veins. He knew that the Voidwalkers would consume everything in their path, leaving only darkness and oblivion in their wake. The galaxy's only hope lay in the Phoenix Armada, humanity's last great bastion against the encroaching shadows. With the Zorgon, Qualek, and Romulan forces in disarray, Webb plotted a desperate course through the chaos, his ship threading the needle between the warring factions. Every second counted as the Voidwalkers drew closer, their presence a growing stain on the fabric of reality. Webb's hands flew over the controls, His eyes locked on the navigational readout. The location of the Phoenix Armada pulsed like a beacon of hope, a promise of salvation in the face of annihilation. He pushed his ship to its limits, the engines screaming with the strain, the hull shuddering under the pressure. But he would not fail, he could not fail. The weight of countless lives of entire civilizations rested on his shoulders, and he would bear that burden, no matter the cost. As the stars streaked past the view screen, Webb's resolve hardened into an unbreakable diamond. He would reach the Phoenix Armada. He would unleash its fury against the Voidwalkers, and he would save the galaxy, even if it meant sacrificing everything he held dear. For he was Commander Joseph Webb, the last human, the bearer of humanity's legacy. And he would not rest until that legacy was secured, until the light of hope shone once more in the face of the gathering darkness. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.